Hello, fellow Galactic listeners. I'm Aaron Julian, and this is WSTR Galactic Public Access, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome to episode 163. Today, we are hunkering down. We are in exile from the threat approaching our galaxy. No, it's not Order 66. It's COVID-19. So we're going to sound and look a little bit different today, but that's all right. We're getting a little deep today, going to look at different philosophies of the Force and what that means for you. Who is with me today? Mr. J.D. Barrow.
Hi.
In the flesh for perhaps the last time.
Perhaps until the coronavirus melts it off my face.
Why is that? Where are you going?
I'm going back to my hometown.
Bristol, Virginia.
Bristol, Virginia, yes.
Well, we're going to miss you, but we're going to set you up so that you can telecommute.
Hooray.
You can hologram in.
Telepod. He's telepodding. Yeah. JD, you were just there, though.
You'll hold me in my hand. I know. That's the funny thing is that I was gone for the first week of spring break, came back for a job. The day I come back, get all the messages saying, hey, we're shutting everything down. Go home.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Thanks very much. We also got Mr. Todd Hoffman, Double D.
Hello there.
Welcome to the stream.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I slipped and called this a stream. We are streaming on the old YouTube. So head on over there. WSTR Media. We are live streaming every Monday night around 8:30, 9 o'clock-ish Central Standard Time. Mr. Todd, you are hunkered down. Are you telecommuting for work?
Not yet. They haven't given the all stay home and hunker down yet, so I'm still working. But traffic is the best. I was like, I was by O'Hare. Right. I was by O'Hare and made it home to my house like in less than an hour. I'm like, all right. Usually takes me an hour and a half or maybe two, but today was like an hour tops. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, because you're like way out in the sticks.
I'm in the sticks, so man.
Good for you.
I'm the furthest way from the brightest sun. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Well, before we get too far into it, let's formally introduce Cantina Chat. All right. So obviously current events are kind of a shadow over the whole galaxy at this point. Carla and Heather, they've got the night off. So JD, let's go to you. What nerdy things have you been up to with all this newfound free time?
Well, I guess the number one thing that I've been up to is I finally got into Total War Warhammer.
Yes.
One
or two?
The second one.
Okay.
Because I bought both of them. There's a Christmas sale. They were both like 75% off or something.
Nice.
So I bought both of them. Filled up the last bit of storage of my computer because they're each like 60 gigabyte games. Yeah. So just... Yeah. And I just hadn't played them because like I know that they just take a lot of time, right? They just take a long time to get through.
Yeah, they're a commitment.
Mm-hmm. So I just have been holding it off until I had free time. And so then over spring break, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it. And now I have a campaign that's currently like 260 something turns in. And
oh my gosh.
I'm not even like halfway through the map. And
yeah. Oh, that's obscene.
It's fun.
But don't you have like 3 Star Wars campaigns going on at the same time or what?
Well, not really right now because they were all up here in Chicago.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I'll be able to put those online. But everybody's availability is going to become a lot wackier.
Gotcha.
To say the least.
Yeah, we're going to be at different time zones.
Yeah. I have started, I guess the more Star Wars related thing is that I started working on a little piece of Star Wars fan fiction.
Ooh.
You're writing fanfic?
First time hearing about it.
So I had this idea when I was much younger, like when the Clone Wars series first came out, about kind of a side story that I would like to see in the show. That just never happened. It never came up. And so I started it several years ago when I was much crappier at writing, never published at anything. And I found it on my computer over spring break. And I was like, you know what? I feel like with my current level of creative writing skills and decency with plot, understanding of character development, whatnot, I feel like I could actually do this plot justice, because it's still a solid idea. And so I've just been working at that. I did have one of those like flash moments of inspiration. I don't know if either of you guys have ever sat down to write something at just like the perfect time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So over the course of like 2 days, I wrote like 20 pages.
Wow.
So that was fun. That was a nice little confidence booster.
There you go. Well done.
Yeah. And now it's probably gonna go back into the archives of my computer hard drive and collect more dust for the next 15 years.
We could do like a long audio play, and we'll do the different characters in your fanfic.
And no one will ever grow tired of it.
It's hilarious.
Even if it's like a 20-page treatment, we'll just do it,
Yeah, man. Well, we kind of did that on our last Starside chat.
Yeah, last Starside chat we read some fan fiction. So you'll have to head on over to WSTR.
Patreon.com/WSTR Media.
Yeah.
We'll pitch it later, but yeah, that's
been my life, and not getting coronavirus so far.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Despite,
sweet.
Traveling across the country multiple times.
Yeah. So.
All right, Todd, what have you been up to?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to stay healthy, right? So, not too much nerdy stuff going on. Picked up over the weekend. I had a couple more achievements in Jedi Fallen Order, so Trent and I hunkered down and completed that. Actually, tonight we just finished our last achievement, so got the old
nicely done.
All the achievements, 1,000 points there for. So yeah, really great game. You got to pick it up. It's fantastic. And so just kind of cleaned up some stuff, and so that was pretty nerdy. Not too much else going on. Tomorrow the Rise of Skywalker audio book drops, so I'll probably be diving into that. That's drops tomorrow. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Well done.
Yeah, pretty much it. How about you, Aaron?
Right on.
Aaron?
Oh man. I've been really getting into Modern Warfare Warzone lately.
Okay.
For those who don't know, it's a free-to-play battle royale game from the makers of Call of Duty. And basically you airdrop into this huge map with like 150 other people, and your objective is to just last as long as possible, be the last one to be evacuated out. And there's this like circle of like toxic World War I mustard gas just kind of slowly squeezing you into a smaller and smaller area.
So it's like
everybody
Fortnite.
Starts off with just a pistol. Yeah. Everybody just starts off with a pistol, and you're paired up with up to 2 other people to form a squad. So you have people to actually like heal you and bail you out. And you have to find different weapons and gear and stuff to keep you alive. And what's unique about this is that the first time you die, you get dragged off to the gulag, which is hilarious. And you basically take turns fighting other players. And if you win, you kill them, you get like respawned right away, and you just drop back in. You still don't have any like equipment, but whatever, you get another chance. Otherwise, if you die another time or you die in the gulag, your squad has to like spend money to buy you out.
Oh wow!
So if they're good enough, they can get you back in. Yeah. So so it feels a bit more fair that way. Like if you die quickly for like unfair reasons, you kind of have a chance to get back in. They also have like an armor system, and you can use your cash that you find laying around to buy different upgrades and things like that. And it's cross-platform, so PC folks and PlayStation folks and Xbox folks, they can all play together in harmony.
Wow!
For the first time ever. I don't know about the first time ever, but it's probably the biggest profile title to do something like that. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's free. It's just a huge download, but most of you have nothing but time right now. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Come play the newest iteration of Fortnite.
Yes. But hey, it's free, so I don't care. Yeah, I've been playing around with that. Basically preparing to possibly move in the next couple of weeks. Because our school was like, hey, we're moving all our classes online. Also, get out. So all the on-campus students have to leave unless you're granted an exemption, which I've applied for. I'll probably find out by the time this episode comes out.
Wow, crazy, man. So soon.
So,
very soon.
Yeah. Life's, as they say, life's a hurricane here in Duckburg.
Who says that?
So yeah, that's what I've been up to.
I guess Aaron. Aaron says that.
That's the DuckTales theme song.
Oh my god!
Dare you? Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Whatever. Anyway, that's Cantina Chat. Let's pay some bills, shall we? You can find everybody on the socials. Todd at Tizazad. That's 4 Z's. Myself, Aaron Julian, HOUILLON on the Instagram. WSTR at WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. And you can email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail at 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. And get your voice on the podcast. We have an entire back catalog of episodes that now you've got the time to dig through.
Right.
That's over at podcast.wstrmedia.com or wherever fine podcasts are sold. This podcast is brought to you by Audible, Amazon's audiobook streaming service. You can catch the Rise of Skywalker audiobook on it very soon. And hey, if you go over to audibletrial.com/WSTR, we could throw a free 30-day trial at you. Grab that book, grab 2 other Audible originals, and you are set. You can keep them forever, even if you cancel. We still get paid. You still get a great book. Everybody wins. That's audibletrial.com/WSTR. We got merch, our merch store, store.wstrmedia.com. Cover you or your loved ones head to toe with WSTR merch. Represent us, your favorite local homegrown grass-fed podcast, store.wstrmedia.com. And we are brought to you by our Patreon page, our kind patrons over at patreon.com/WSTRmedia, including Mr. Jason Handy, Mr. Jeremy Myers, and Mr. Scarif Scuttlebutt. They are supporting us every month. They get access to exclusive content you can't get anywhere else. That's right. We've got Heather's Holocron, Heather's journey through the Star Wars lore, and Starside Chat. Some fun and interesting, air quotes, discussions with me, JD, and some guests. We're getting into video content now, too.
Video.
What?
Ooh.
See us with your eyes, hear us with your ears.
Yeah, our past 3 Starside Chat episodes have all been videoed.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah, until they develop like smell-o-vision, that's about all the senses you could get of us. So if that's something that you're into, head on over to patreon.com/WSTRmedia for less than the cost of 1 coffee, 1 latte, which you can't get anymore anyway.
Well, yeah,
you restaurants
you have to go through
down.
the drive-through. You have to go through the drive-through now.
Yeah, so if you're not going to be heading out anyway, because you're taking cover from the Woo Flu, toss a coin to your Witcher, toss a coin to your podcast over at patreon.com/WSTRmedia. Join in the fun, support us, and get some exclusive content that your fellow listeners are enjoying already. Don't get left out. All right, bills are paid. Mr. Todd, let's tease that news.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, coming up in a little bit, Early Bird Gets the Worm, Stuntman, and Judge Me by My Size Do You. Those are 3 items we're going to be talking about very soon. All right, JD.
Cool. What, Aaron? Do you hear that?
Yeah, it's coming over the airwaves.
It sounds like some stuff.
An electro voice phenomenon. Oh, no, wait. It's an intercepted Imperial transmission.
Well. So we did have an interception. I don't know if it was this week or last week. It was sometime. It happened. It got caught in a net. This was posted, a questionnaire type situation from IG.
That's Instagram for all the hip cool kids.
Podcast.
No.
Yeah, Star Wars
we
podcast.
posted the question. They answered it.
Sorry. We posted a question. They answered it.
We sent out a distress beacon.
The class notes are not very specific.
Well, I always like that JD is like self-discovering at the same time. Like,
yeah. I don't read any of these things beforehand. I just go in raw, just straight into it. So we posted this question, and a Star Wars podcast answered us. Question was, what would you want for a new Disney Plus series? ? And they replied with a weekly podcast racing championship.
I don't know about podcast racing, but pod racing.
Pod racing.
That'd be
Weekly
nice.
Pod racing championship. Yeah.
You know what? If they had like a weekly pod racing championship and invited a Star Wars podcast to guest commentate for each one,
Heck yes.
that'd be pretty fun.
Heck yes,
Just
I would.
saying that, Disney.
that would be very exciting.
Have you guys ever seen that? It's a Japanese game that it's basically a gambling game that was made, and it's a horse race, but all of the different horses are like, it's all animated.
Okay.
And all the horses and riders are like super ridiculous. I think like PewDiePie did a thing on this. Video Game Donkey did a thing on this, and it's essentially it's a gambling game where every single round there's Japan World Cup. Every single round that the video game plays, there's a predetermined winner.
Okay.
And all these different ridiculous things happen. And so basically the idea is you bet with your friends which horse you think is going to win. Because there's like elephants and like a car and two dudes in like a horse costume.
Like a horse that runs sideways on its back legs.
Yeah. Like all kinds of crazy
ridiculous
stuff. And so you bet money on who you think it is. I would love to see some ridiculous version of that.
With pod racing.
But what with pod racing?
Oh, okay.
Dude,
like a super edited version of the episode 1 pod race.
Okay.
Yes.
Where like it's like a a super long video, and every single couple of minutes there's a winner, right? Mm-hmm. There's a different winner each time, so you just bet on who you think it's going to be.
All right.
I would commentate for that 100%.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
This reminds me of you remember Twitch Plays Pokemon?
No, I don't.
So a couple of years ago, the official Twitch channel had a stream where they were running a modified emulator for I think it was like Pokemon Red to begin with, and instead of like a person with a controller playing it, it would do button presses activated by people watching, putting in commands in the chat.
Oh.
So imagine somebody playing the game, but it's like thousands of button presses every second. And everybody's just trying to complete the game. Well, they managed to beat the game and then beat like another game. So if they could do that with like horse racing, where like every time you bet, like you type in the chat like this, like that horse or that pod race like goes up a little bit, like goes forward, and you just have to basically just like spam commands to like get your horse to win. That'd be cool if it was either horse racing or pod racing.
I think you're just talking about an advanced typing simulator.
Yeah, pretty much. Just get a macro keyboard.
How to teach the kids how to type in the modern age.
Hey, there you go.
I'd be down with that. They might be doing that anyway with all the schools closing down.
Yeah. But yeah, what would you guys want to see as a new Diz Plus series?
Something for adults. Something, I want like RoboCop, but Star Wars, just something like totally over the top. Just like,
I'll buy that for $1.
Put the kids to bed. This is going to be, yeah, exactly. Because there's something in Star Wars for everyone, that's for sure. But we haven't really had like, really serious like adult content. So something like that I'd be interested in. It would be suicide for Disney, of course. They would never do it, but that's not what we're asking with this question.
Yeah.
Right.
What about you, Tad?
I would do either a buddy cop movie. It'd be fantastic. A little buddy cop series.
There you go.
Or I want to like Attack of the Clones was kind of a light like this, but like some kind of noir, like a crime investigation noir thing, like in the criminal underbelly.
Okay, gotcha.
Would be fantastic. Those two would be, super light kind of comedy, or something that's a little bit more deep and dark and seedy would be fun, like a little crime investigation. So
yeah.
So either like Bad Boys 2 or like The Wire,
right?
Star Wars.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are.
Right.
It would be
fun. I'd love to see like a Star Wars. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I'd love to see like a Star Wars CSI or something. In the underbelly of Coruscant. That'd be fun. I'd honestly love to see on the old Diz Plus. I'd love to see some sort of Old Republic series, and that's more so just coming from the place of there's so many really good cinematics and so much voice acting and so much writing in the Old Republic online game. Hours and hours and hours of content and storylines and characterization and big political drama and stuff. And you could easily adapt just a bit of that into a long-running TV series, and it would go great.
There you go.
Like a House of Cards.
Yeah.
Or The West Wing or something like that.
Something like that. That could be really fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that response, Star Wars. It generated some pretty good discussion. So that's our intercepted Imperial transmission.
Now with the good content out of the way, it's time for the trash.
Oh, man.
So this week we tweeted out on the old WSTR Crying Face Media, who is your favorite droid? ? Droid is capitalized. Comments welcomed, period. Hashtag Star Wars. Hashtag Wednesday Wisdom. Hashtag Droid Life. Hashtag Droids. Yeah. Not capitalized that time.
Ooh.
Some light discrimination in that hashtag.
Old man question here. Can you capitalize within hashtags?
I have no idea.
Is that a thing, or is it the kind of thing where it's just like lowercase is all of it, like no matter what?
No, yeah, you could hashtag capitalization, man.
Dropping the ball here, Mr. Todd.
Dropping the ball. All right. So the options we gave you were R2D2, C3PO, BB-8, and K2SO. So, Mr. Todd, which one is your favorite droid? Or if they're not here, do you have a different one?
That's a great question. I really do like K2. Another one, I would say for me, playing Jedi Fallen Order, I would say BD1 is a very cool droid. But you can't go wrong with R2. I think he's the king. He's the Swiss Army knife. You need him in a pinch, and he's got any attachment you need. So I think I would have to vote for R2 on this one. Aaron, what about you, my friend?
Oh, man. My bet would probably be on 3PO.
Okay.
He's kind of like He's kind of like Toby from The Office. Like everybody hates him for no good reason.
Such a great analogy.
But he's like nobody would be able to understand R2 without him.
That's he's true. Not like Toby. People hate him for very good reasons.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always felt bad for 3PO, so he gets my vote out of pity.
Is it because you're both shiny?
Yes, shiny and bald.
Yeah, so I would put what I think is the best droid in all of Star Wars, HK-47.
I knew you were going to say that.
Oh, yeah, comments welcome.
Meatbags.
It's just, he's so good, though. He's so good. Like, if you look up any of the different lines or quotes that he had, man, he continually asks, he's like, shall I find something to kill to cheer us up? Or
yeah,
he's different. Like he's extremely intelligent, but there's just so many things he just doesn't understand about like human culture and the way we do things and the way we go about solving problems. And
yeah, like one of my favorite quotes from him is, "How can a meatbag like you hear yourself talk with all the liquid sloshing around in your body?"
How the constant sloshing doesn't drive you mad? Yeah. I have no idea. And just like how aggressive he gets with people and how he's like, oh, people are disgusted, I want to kill them all. And then you can call him out on it. He's like, oh, but not you. Of course, master, never you.
Yeah.
And he can be, he's such a kiss ass at like the perfect moments. And then also the fact that there's like HK-51 and there's HK-59 and then there's a bunch of other HK units that show up in that timeline, and they're all because his model was so perfect that everyone is like afraid to mess with his original plans, so they keep that same personality matrix because they're worried that if they change it, he'll be less effective.
Right.
So they're all like the same droid.
That's awesome.
And it's just beautiful. Yeah. So the percentages that you guys gave were 8% for BB-8, which I'm very thankful because that guy does not deserve as much praise as he gets.
Oh no!
He's not offensive. He's just so predictable. Like he's such a calculated move on Disney's part to like make money and get sales. Yeah.
Like when YouTubers make like an apology video and they're always like, they always have like a dog with them.
Yes.
It's like,
he's that dog. Absolutely. C-3PO got 10%. Not too surprised there. K2SO got 20%. Again, man, we like our sassy droids. We like our K2SOs. We like our HKs. They're pretty fun. And then, to no one's surprise, absolutely no one's, R2-D2 coming in at 61%.
Red hot or blue hot. Yeah.
Just slamming in there.
All right. That's the Twitter trash compactor. I think it's time for our main topic.
So, back in 2019, it was a simpler time. It was a less plague-filled time.
Before the dark times.
Before the
Empire.
Before the coronavirus. We said, hey, there are some of different topics that we would like to do in 2020. And, well, the brilliant myself, Mr. J.D. Barrow. I'm just reading what it says. I'm not adding anything here.
Yeah, who wrote that there? Must have been your number one fan.
Is going to kick it off with a question about what is the Force, and more specifically, what are the different philosophies about the Force. So the little bit of homework that I asked the WSTR crew, and I guess just tonight the WSTR boys to do was to take a little bit of time and just think about what they feel like the Force actually is. We get several definitions throughout things like the TV shows and the movies and other stuff. Different people, say what it is. I think Obi-Wan gives us like our first definition in episode 4.
Yep.
Kind of. And then Yoda gives like the first like famous concrete definition. And then that gets modified in episode 1 by Qui-Gon Jinn. Modified
is putting it very generously.
And then we find out more about it through conversations with Papa Palp.
Yep.
And then Clone Wars talks about it a decent amount. We get to see a whole new side of it with things like the Dathomirian witches. And we get to see a lot more of the dark side through the Clone Wars. And then season 6 gives us like a big idea that like the Force is a lot more layered than most people think when Yoda goes on his little galaxy trotting adventure. And he meets I forget what they're called. The Mask Boys.
Yeah.
Do you know what they're called, Todd?
What was that? The Mask Boys?
You
mean the Knights of Ren?
When Yoda goes on his adventure in season 6 of Clone Wars.
Yes, those are the sisters. The what are those guys called? Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Anyway, those guys. Yeah. And so, yeah, we just kind of get through the books, through the comics, through the video games, through the TV shows, or just TV show. Well, now there's 2, right? There aren't more than that. There's 2 of them now. This is getting out of hand. We find out there's a lot more to it. And it's kind of expanded beyond what Lucas originally had in mind, which was just, good guys good, bad guys bad, the end. So, with all that being said, and different stuff going on, and we'd love to hear any audience thoughts about this as well in the comments or email. Aaron, what do you think personally the Force is?
Wow. Well, this is closely related to a discussion that we've had in the past on multiple occasions about what balance in the Force is, which is kind of one step higher. If we're taking the kind of traditionalist conservative view of it,
fundamentalist.
Yeah, you also have to talk to it about it like it's like art movements or like religious belief systems. But the very original view is just that the Force is an energy field created by all living things, and through study in the Jedi Order, or in the Jedi way, you can become in tune with it. And you can reach out and it will respond to you. It can also guide your movements, guide your actions. And so it's kind of like a dance, in that you can't, it's not like something that you can control, but it's something that you can move in step with. It's a very, very kind of Buddhist kind of way to think about it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem to have any kind of consciousness or intelligence on its own. It's very much just kind of this neutral thing. And as you get stronger in the Force and more in tune with it, the greater things that you can do with it, whether for good or for ill. And we see that with the light side and the dark side of the Force. And so that's another aspect of the Force, is that there's a light side and there's a dark side. The light side, as originally envisioned by George Lucas, is that you to walk in the light side of the Force means that you are not controlled by your emotions, that you are working to restore peace in not only in your life, but in the galaxy, peace and balance. And that's kind of what balance in the Force is this kind of alignment with the light side. And the dark side is what happens when you ignore that and instead give in to your kind of selfish emotions, and you're led by your passions. And it's not only a destruction of yourself, but destruction of the galaxy and those around you. And that's the dark side of the Force. And then we get into this kind of reformation of the Force.
The Reformation.
Where
Martin Luther comes out.
Yeah.
Nails a note to the Death Star.
Yeah. On the Coruscant Senate door. So, and this is where we get the idea of midichlorians.
Oh boy, here we go.
It suddenly turns from this kind of hippie woo-woo spiritual thing into this is an actual, like, we could track it by these kind of microscopic organisms that produce this phenomena that we call the Force.
Okay.
And we can measure it. And, this person has more Force than the other person. And Anakin has a greater amount of the Force than Yoda. And what that seems to imply is that it's almost like an energy tank that can be drained or filled. And if you have more midichlorians, you have a greater reserve to draw from. And so it becomes almost like video gamey. It's a power that you can expend.
To me, he strictly put that in as a way to gauge how powerful Anakin was. It's very comic booky, right? So it's that classic question, like, who's stronger, who's stronger, Superman or the Hulk? And you have these debates, right? And you can't, at the end of the day, it's like, well, they're probably both strong, right? But I feel like Lucas was like, I really have to set the stage to tell them, like, Anakin is, like, way above anybody else, even Master Yoda. And he also brings in episode 1, you have this kind of symbiotic relationship with the Gungan and the Naboo, the Jedi and the Force. And so he brings this biological component to kind of, there's all this symbiotic stuff going on. And I think that's his kind of way of saying Anakin's above everybody else, and there's some symbiotic stuff going on.
Sure. But oh God, the aftermath. Yeah. There's a ton of consequences of that.
Yeah, there is.
Meaning that the idea of balance in the Force changes, where balance of the Force is, instead of peace and harmony between all living things, it becomes light side has so many points stacked in their favor, so many midichlorians on their side, and the dark side, they have so many points in their bank, and whoever has more, like, the balance of the Force is in that side.
Right.
And you suddenly get from this kind of like unconscious kind of inert force, or like this element that kind of does whatever it wills, if it even does will. As far as we know, it doesn't have like a consciousness or anything. It gets shifted into this kind of like biological component. And not only that, we also get this idea of like a prophecy, like someone some long time ago predicted that this kind of creature like Anakin would come along and bring balance to the Force, which is later amended to like destroy the Sith. And so at that point, it's not only this kind of biological exchange, but it's also this, like, it seems to have a will, if not a consciousness of its own.
Right.
Not only because of Anakin's just kind of miraculous birth. But the fact that it could have been influenced by, Darth Plagueis, and it seems to have this kind of intention for this special child that it would bring balance to the Force. And so already we have a very different idea of what the Force is than from the original kind of very simple, like Eastern philosophy mindset of it.
Right.
It becomes this very kind of, it's oversimplifying to say Western, but there's pretty much no other way to say it. It becomes very modernized, kind of objective, scientific, kind of calculated and very individualistic, in that it has like a will and a consciousness of its own. And then we get into the sequel trilogy, and it's just kind of whatever, man. Like, they attempt to wipe the slate clean with The Last Jedi and saying like it's a very much an experiential thing, that the Force is present in everything from life to death, and there's this kind of contrast between you can think of it as like yin and yang. It's this or it's that. It's like opposites, but it can also like kind of switch over at any time. And again, we go back to this kind of Buddhist mentality of it. But they still kind of leave it vague and open to interpretation, whether it's like a biological phenomenon or not. But I think it's fully expressed with Rey and Kylo that they're like a Force dyad. It's that they are not only representative of the light side and dark side themselves, but they each have like a seed of the other inside them.
Yeah.
In that throughout the whole sequel trilogy, there's always that threat that they're going to flip to the other side, and yet they don't. But by working together, that's how they bring balance. And so again, we're kind of brought back full circle to this.
Does kind of get negated when Kylo just becomes a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like they had the idea there, but then they just kind of caved at the last minute.
It's yin and yin. Oh.
Yeah. So it's a very confused and muddled kind of systematic theology of the Force.
Right.
So Todd, what do you think it is?
I kind of go back to the original trilogy as far as just, it's an energy field that binds us together. And anyone could tap into it, which they kind of explored a little bit in the sequel trilogy, and then they went off the rails. I really feel like, though, for episode 1, I feel like Qui-Gon Jinn's the man. Like, he gets it. And I feel like the council is pretty much the Pharisees in, like, biblical times. Like, they just put too many rules and too many ideas and try to control the Force. Very much how when, like, in a Pharisees would put all these laws, like, okay, there's these 10 commandments, but we got to do all this other stuff, to make sure that we're in line with the Force. And I really feel like that is where the Jedi Council is at, and they're totally out of sync. And they let the evil one, the devil, Papa P, come right in there and just snatch it from them. And I feel like Qui-Gon Jinn at that point is really the Zen master and is talking about the cosmic force, and and he's gets it. I think he gets it. And I just love it. And honestly, he's the first one to crack the code. He goes, he's the one to actually speak from beyond. And I find that kind of fascinating, and I really thought going into the Rise of Skywalker, because similar to Aaron's point, Rian Johnson kind of blows up Star Wars and say, he kind of blows everything up. And I felt like they were going to really get to the balance of the Force, because Luke in Last Jedi is like, powerful light, powerful dark. And there's this, it's the Jedi that kind of basically created Darth Vader, which is there's some truth to that, but it's like there's this monster that they created. And so his philosophy was like, if I stay in this game, I'm going to unbalance the force. And so I'm literally pulling myself out of the force because I'm the most powerful Jedi out there, and I'm going to pull back. And I just want to die peacefully and not get into this galactic mess, and that was that's kind of how he's like, I'm kind of tapping out, right? Because if I go back in the force, then I know there's this powerful dark trying to bring balance or whatever that is. And I really thought Rise of Skywalker was going to answer it, and they didn't.
Nope.
They totally failed. They totally failed.
Everybody turns good. Everybody turns good in the end.
Well, I'm okay. Again, like you said, it's like yin yin or yang yang or what. It should be, that dyad should be there, and there should be that idea. And that's kind of, I know Grey Jedi is not canon. I understand that. I kind of like that middle ground. Like, the Force doesn't care if you use Force lightning or Force repulse. It doesn't care. It's the tool you use it, how you use it. It's just as Yoda says to Luke, it's, is the dark side, Luke asks, is the dark side more powerful? And Luke and Yoda just basically responds, no, it's just easier, and it takes a certain discipline to be a Jedi, to be somebody in the light, because it's this powerful force that you can use at will. But it's the idea that it's a give-take relationship, right? And the same thing with when you're a Sith, it's like, I'm just taking, it's all mine. And that's where Lucas is getting to that selfishness. And so that's where the balance comes in. It's like you have to, you can take from it, but you also have to give back to it. And I feel like that's where I like that kind of middle ground where you can use anything you want from the Force. It's just, how do you not use it too selfishly and not so righteously as the Jedi would do, and try to set balance. You can do both. And I feel like that's where, from a spiritual perspective, you have to have, you're evil, but you have to manage that good as well. So I don't know if that answered the question, but I feel I kind of like the middle ground.
No. Yeah. These are really good answers, really good perspectives. So now I have a rhetorical question that I'm going to let you two just mull in your heads for just a little bit, and let our audience mull over as well. Who or what is to blame for the war of Star Wars? Who or what is to blame for the war of Star Wars? Basically, the Star Wars universe, like many sci-fi universes out there, I think the most comparable one, oddly enough, is Warhammer 40K, is stuck in this perpetual, never-ending cycle of conflict, right? That's like the whole binding theme of the entire universe, outside of light side, dark side, is that there's always conflicts and there's never, ever going to be peace. There's going to be real, everlasting peace until everyone dies.
Yeah.
And in those types of sci-fi universes, there's always a reason. So in like the Warhammer 40K universe, it's because of chaos. In something like the Ringworld series, it's because of this super ancient race that did this stuff way, way long ago and set all this stuff in motion. In the Halo universe, it's because of the Flood. And so there's always a cause, right, for that eternal conflict. What I love, one of the reasons why I love the Old Republic series so much, is that series in those original 2 video games birthed an idea that has since I will say, I do truly believe has terrified not only LucasArts, Lucasfilms, and and especially now Disney, because none of them have been willing to touch this concept with a 10-foot pole, and Disney is now even remaking that entire series of games and basically pretending like the original two never happened. Because the second one, written by those lovely, lovely guys over at Obsidian Entertainment.
Right.
Who love to just take really heavy topics and punch you in the face with them. They created this character named Kreia, who has a long, long backstory and a long, long history. And she proposes this idea that the Force is to blame for every issue, every bit of conflict that has ever happened or ever will happen in Star Wars.
Right. It has like a conscious.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
That the Force has it's not like necessarily intelligent per se. Like it's not super intelligent. It's not this omniscient godlike being, but it has an animalistic instinct.
The wills of the Force, the will of the Force.
Yes. And that it wants to, kind of like what you guys were saying, it wants that middle ground. It wants that balance.
Correct.
And so it will manipulate people and events and circumstances and pull people in these different extreme directions and create conflict in order to get that balance that it wants.
Absolutely.
A lot of people have, speculated that the prophecy about Anakin bringing balance to the Force was to wipe out all the Jedi, right? And then eventually overthrow the Emperor. But at first, get rid of all that extra too much light side kicking around for too long, and swing it back in the other direction. And heck, even Luke, talking in episode 8 about how like the Force doesn't belong exclusively to the Jedi, right? And they don't have, full say over it. And so Kreia puts her goal, her motivation as a character is to attempt to kill off the Force.
Yes.
Get rid of it.
Yes, exactly. Altogether.
And yes, altogether. Get rid of it. And it's just, she gives this really amazing speech in the game where she talks about how she hates the Force. She hates that it might have a conscience, it might have a will, that everything she does in life is ultimately being led down wherever the Force is ultimately taking her. And the only way that she can actually affect change is to use the Force. But that in turn just gets the Force what it wants. And there's no escaping it.
Yeah.
It's a very nihilistic point of view about the Force.
But what's funny is that, especially in the prequels, when they get into all that thing about like seeing the future that episode 5 kind of introduced, right? And they talk about all the different visions and all the different dreams.
Right.
And there is that sense that like, oh, the future is always in motion. But all of the dreams and visions end up coming true anyway. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, in one of the best Clone Wars arcs, obviously the Mortis trilogy, Anakin, he basically becomes Darth Vader in his vision, right? And then before he leaves, they wipe him clean, and he doesn't remember that, right? Like if he keeps on going down these decisions, he's going to become this kind of dark angel, right? And then what happens? He still comes down those decisions and becomes the dark angel. Like even though his memory was wiped, he's still this his selfishness led him down that path, and it's that kind of, sometimes even if you know the future, you still, even if you want to change it, you're still going to kind of lead down those steps,
Yeah. And so I personally agree with Kreia, and I think it's a fascinating idea. I'm sad that Disney is in control of Star Wars now for that particular reason, because they're never, the way their entire company is built, the way their whole market share works, the way they've been building Star Wars, they're never going to touch that concept.
Yeah, but they also tainted it with the idea of Rey coming from nowhere is fascinating, right? I think it's great, right? But then they had to put a man behind her to make it, oh, this is why she's so powerful. And it's like, no, maybe it's not bloodline. You know, it doesn't have to do with bloodline. It's the will of the Force allowed her to do those things, you know, and bring balance, right? Because you have Kylo, again, it goes back to that dyad. You haven't seen this in 1,000 years, blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's fantastic, but it's like they were mixing things. They just didn't know where to land, you know? And if you took that yin and yang, I think what would be more fascinating is if Kylo lived and had to deal with all the consequences he did.
Yeah. Right? They tried to do that mass appeal.
Yes, right. Yeah.
But what's funny though is that if you do adopt that philosophy of Krea's, if you do see the Force as the reason for every issue in Star Wars ever, it really changes the whole game, right? You're no longer really rooting for the Jedi. You're no longer like super happy when they say, "Oh, the Force, you know, willed the chosen one to come out of nowhere," or the Force, you know, popped Rey out of nowhere. You know, you're kind of like, no, I hate this. And and it changes the whole outlook on the entire universe and the entire series. And it's again, it's that comparison to Warhammer 40K, like this group of people, this galaxy of people that are doomed essentially.
Yeah.
Like they're never getting out of this.
Yeah, I mean, they explored this. They explored this a little bit. They got risky in the expanded universe with Yuzan Vong, who you couldn't see in the Force, you know? And so they really explored that kind of topic where you have a species that the Jedi could see physically, but they couldn't see them in the Force, you know? And that's a whole other thing that they tried to explore. But in this new market with Disney, it's too hard to kind of explore, you know what I'm saying? It's just the same thing with KOTOR too. I don't know if they could. They won't touch that. So
no, never.
But I do like the idea of, like, again, somebody, if it's a balance, it's somebody coming from nothing and somebody that is dark side, and you come together to bring that balance and to be copacetic with each other. Like, I'm not going to attack you. You know, go back to your original question, like, what brings the wars in Star Wars? It's like, I'm not going to attack you. I'm gonna be okay, and you live in harmony in a sense. Like, this is my spot in sandbox. This is your spot in sandbox, and we learn to live together. But as you know, that never happens. You know, so
never.
We have something in the chat. I just want to Charles Westcott from Conversations. The way he sees the Force is simply as yin and yang. There are movements with each, but it ends up balanced. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I would say too. I've kind of described like the history of the theology of the Force kind of dispassionately, but I would, if I had to give an opinion, I would say it's just the nature of the universe and maybe the Force itself that the tide comes in, the tide goes out. Like if you have peace and harmony for way too long, like things get really boring, things get stagnant, they get fossilized. There's no like room for growth, and that's what we see with the Jedi Council during the prequel era, in that they just got way too comfortable. It was all way too bureaucratic. They were kind of the world police, and they were just functioning in a role that they were never meant to be. They became the world police instead of like disciples of the Force.
Right. I said this before. It's like it's like Yoda, the Pope, taking the Vatican and putting it in Vegas. It just doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah.
And then they're, Mason Yoda are like, well, I guess it's time to tell the Senate that we're, our ability to read the Force is like, we can't do it anymore. And it's like, well, because you're in Vegas, man,
Yeah.
And it is canon that there is a dark side temple in Coruscant that the Jedi Temple is built on. So there's already, an already kind of dark side thing going on. And the other thing that I've kind of used is, how the Force is flowing, and basically what Palpatine did was dammed it up, and blocked the Force and unnaturally. And I kind of like that analogy too, where, Sith is trying to use it for unnatural reasons, and the Force doesn't like that. And that's where the bounce comes out. Like, hey, you gotta, can't do that.
And I think that goes back to the original nature of what the Empire was in the original trilogy, and that there are always like artificial, like straight lines and harsh geometric edges and robots and artificiality, and very much just this kind of manipulative force to try to impose their will upon the world, instead of the light side, which is kind of very much organic and free flowing and bending to the will of the Force. And so we take that and we kind of marry that to the idea of, you can't have great heroism without great suffering. You can't have peace without war. You can't have love without hate. And it's these kind of two balances that are always pulling back and forth. And Kreia sees that and sees just all the blame, all the suffering and the negativity to lay at the feet of the Force. But I think where her kind of philosophy is incomplete is that if she's going to lay the blame of the evil of the galaxy at the feet of the Force, she doesn't lay the blame of any of the good at the feet of the Force either. There's just no room for that in her worldview.
But like you're saying, the moment that you introduce all this holistic and amazing good, you invite conflict. Like there's this really, really interesting lesson that she kind of teaches you, because KOTOR is all about different choices, right? Making different choices, making your character. And like the first planet you go to, this beggar runs up and asks for money. And so the game kind of funnels you into pretty much two options. You can either be super harsh and be like, go away, like get out of here. Or you could give him money. And it's kind of the only time that the game gives you like these polarizing options. And it's to teach you this lesson. And if you give him money, Kreia says, be careful with that. And you basically ask her why. And she talks about how, giving somebody charity like that, especially in a place like this where so many people need money, so many people are hurting, you can make them a target. And then literally the game shoots over, he's counting his money, and then somebody comes up and mugs him and kills him for his money that you just gave him. Right. And then if you yell at him and you say like, get away, get out of here, she says like, be careful with that amount of violence and aggression. It's like, because wounding someone like that unnecessarily will usually make them go wound somebody else. And then you go watch him in a fit of rage and anger, go mug somebody who has money and kill them and take their money. Yeah.
It's kind of a trap.
Yeah. But her point is that the Force does lead people like the Jedi to do good.
Yes.
But ultimately that brings suffering. And it leads the Sith to do all kinds of horrible things that eventually get mended, but they're still horrible things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she's like, the only way to end this never-ending cycle, this never-ending tide in, tide out, get rid of the tide, right? Mm-hmm. It's not worth it. It's not worth these little moments of niceness when ultimately all of the suffering is still all of the suffering.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was where Luke was going, basically, to pull him. He didn't want to be a pawn anymore. He tried to pull himself off. It's like, I'm out. I'm not playing this game anymore, because he was seeing that as well. And that's That's the whole point of Last Jedi. Is like I'm pulling out. I don't want to play this game anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we could go on for hours.
Well, let us know what you think
Theology Podcast.
Let us know what you think about the Force. Where conflict in Star Wars comes from. Because I think we can all agree it's a never-ending conflict, right? So what's to blame for the never-ending conflict? And yeah,
besides
what's the
Disney
Force?
wanting to make money.
What's the Force? And I guess my personal question is Kreia right? Would it getting rid of the Force solve everything? Or would it just make it worse? Because nobody knows for certain.
And we'll never know.
All right. I'm done.
I think it's time we move on to news of the week.
All right. First
Mr.
one
Todd,
up on the docket.
Bring me a dream.
Is since coronavirus is hitting us hard, Disney has basically released Rise of Skywalker early on digital. And if you're like Frozen 2, they already released Frozen 2 on Disney Plus. So yeah, just kind of moving
3
things
months
up.
early.
Yeah, come a little early. So it was supposed to be released March 17th. So that's the day before this recording, but they released it over the weekend. And so Rise of Skywalker a couple days, but Frozen 2 is a fresh 3 months early. So pretty interesting stuff. But also this is delaying a lot of theatrical releases. So Mulan, New Mutants, Antlers from Disney is going to push back. The other thing I read, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Universal is basically going to do both theatrical release and digital right now. Like, so movie comes out, they're going to do digital and theatrical release at the same time during, I don't know how long they're going to do it, but yeah, pretty interesting strategy from Universal.
Yeah, this could be a revolution as far as movies and film releases and the theater going experience. Because like a lot of theater chains are just completely shutting down, and their profits are pretty slim as it is. So there's no word on, depending on how things go, if they'll ever open up again. So yeah, this is we're in strange times, that's for sure.
Yeah. And they're also
strange times indeed.
I saw that AMC is basically saying we're going to do half the theater. And so to allow spacing, so they will only sell so many tickets. And that obviously cuts in the bottom line because now they can't even, sell the full house. So there you go.
Yeah. And for a little peek behind the curtain, no pun intended. And I think, JD, you can back me up on this, having both worked at movie theaters.
Yep.
The profits that go to actual movie theater are pretty much nothing when a movie first comes out. The majority of the ticket sale price goes towards the studios.
All ticket sale price goes to the people who make the movie.
Yeah. And then the longer that the movie is in the theater, week by week, the percentage of the ticket profits go more and more towards the actual theater.
No.
That's how it used to be.
The only money that any movie theater makes to the movie theater is the rental space. Basically, a company will say, we want our movie playing in your theater for X amount of time, and we want X amount of seats. And then that way it gives the theaters the ability to shift things around. Like when Avengers Infinity War came out and basically theaters across the country pretty much stopped playing any other movie and only played Infinity War. It's because they're able to kind of juggle the contracts in that way. Because it's not like we want X amount of hours or whatever this stuff. So the theaters themselves have that ability to say, we're going to put more shows of this and less shows of that at will based on demand. So they get that rental space and that rental time. And then the only other movie that they make, the only other money that they make is concessions and in-house sales. Nothing, not a single bit of the ticket sale goes to them.
Either our theater chains work separately, differently, or I've been lied to.
That's standard formula for the major chains. There are some lower chains that will get deals for movies that have already like come and gone. So like re-release theaters, or more niche theaters, and they get to keep ticket sales. But while a movie is in theatrical release, they get the ticket money because that's their only source of money to pay all of the marketing, all of the actors, all the people who worked on the movie. They all get paid first, and then the corporations get paid after that point. So it's a lot of people to pay on one source of revenue. They have to have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now that like all the theaters are closing down, like, where's that money going to come from?
Right. Yeah. Well,
it's gonna hurt the theaters more though.
Yeah.
It really will.
Yeah. Well, again, like the theater, the other thing is that the movie companies, if they delay this to the fall, when hopefully everything blows over, now you got a real crunch of movies in a small part of time, and then you can't gain all the audience to come back. Like, hey, come back and watch 20 movies from October to December. So yeah. So
Oscar season's going to be weird.
Yeah, exactly. All right, next up,
unless
because
they just shift everything to streaming.
Yeah. Next up, we have, because of the digital release of Star Wars, that we have some new featurettes. And so one of the featurettes showcases Adam Driver's dedication to Kylo Ren. And this is coming from, where is this coming from? This is coming from Slash Film. And basically it says, with the home video release, that means fans can get an extensive sneak peek behind the scenes, the final Skywalker saga leading up the film release on digital. Here is one that surfaced, and Adam Driver's intense dedication to playing Kylo Ren as fiercely as possible, including doing some of his own stunts. You can watch it right here. And Aaron, why don't you roll that thing?
Here we go.
Wow, what a cool featurette.
Adam Driver is very dedicated.
We can really see his dedication from this clip.
Is that what you call it?
He is the saving grace of the saga.
He really is. And what's funny is that I think it's funny that he's getting praised for this. I really feel like this is Disney just pumping its own ego up more.
Tooting its own horn, as it were.
Because, like, there's so many other actors. Like, I have nothing against Adam Driver. He's a great actor. But there's so many other actors that just work infinitely harder for their roles. I think Keanu Reeves in the recent John Wick films is a good example.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Like there's just so many other actors that just go full ham. And here's Adam Driver, a good actor, a good guy. He's obviously dedicated to the role, etc., getting all this praise and attention for doing some stunts in a Star Wars movie. It's just not comparable. That's all I'm saying.
It reminds me of my favorite line from perhaps any movie ever. Mm-hmm. It comes from RoboCop 2. And the context is this robot that's gone out of control and starts just gunning down people in public. And the board members of Omnicorp are watching this unfold. And one of the older ones says to the other, "Let's get our best spin team on this."
Wow. That's your second RoboCop reference tonight, man.
I know, it's on the brain.
It's just on the brain. Yeah. All right. And then finally, this is coming from, it's coming from Simon & Schuster, the actual website for a Star Wars poster collection mini book. And it says, relive your favorite Star Wars adventures with a collection of the galaxy's greatest posters. Judge a book by its size, do you? Hold over 4 decades of cinematic history in the palm of your hand with Star Wars, the poster collection. This mini book features posters from all eras of Star Wars, from the original trilogy, classic theatrical posters, to the epic one-sheets of prequel films, to the latest artwork of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, featuring iconic posters and rarely seen artwork and promotional imagery. Star Wars, the poster collection spotlights the art that has captured the imaginations of multiple generations, making it the perfect gift for all Star Wars. Only for yours for $11.99. So it's
$11.99 is not a bad price.
Yeah. And
Well,
it's a tiny book that fits in your hand, you know?
It's just, what's annoying about this, right, is this, I appreciate what they're doing. I really do. Like, this kind of history deserves to be preserved 100%.
Yes.
It does.
Yeah.
And it deserves to be accessible. But posters are not supposed to be in mini form ever. Like, they're supposed to be massive and big and across someone's wall. And like, I really think they could make a lot more money if there's like, here's the poster collection. It's like $100 and we'll roll up and ship to you every poster that has ever been made for Star Wars. People would go berserk for that, right? They would spend that money in a heartbeat.
It's kind of like Fred Flintstone at the end of the cartoon, and he comes in with a Brontosaurus ribs, and they put it on the side of the car, and it just flips over, you know? And that would be that book. It would be like this huge book. They have to like forklift it in, and they put it on the table, and you're like, whoa, you know? Yeah, I agree. It should be big.
I was about to say I'd pay 10 times that price if it was like a big, like large format, like coffee book table.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a conversation piece.
100%. I would pay for that. I'm not going to pay for a mini book. Like, sit there with my magnifying glass and be like, ooh, what did this poster have on it? I can't see anything.
Maybe if it was like a bunch of postcards or something.
Yeah.
But
it just seems to be so against all semblance of reason for this to exist. For this to exist.
Yeah, we don't have any measurements.
I think its only saving grace is that it's not more than $15.
Right,
there's no way it's worth more than $15.
Well, it's coming out October 6th, 2020. So there you go.
If we make it that long.
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
Oh, true statement. Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, I think it's a wrap, gentlemen. I think we did it.
We did it.
We did it.
Another episode in the bag.
That's right.
No, it's coronavirus. You have to just Air 5.
Air 5, yeah.
Yeah.
Air 5.
Exactly. You
need to wash my hands now.
Yeah, you guys are already in the same room. You're already infected, so it's all good. So,
yeah.
There you go.
We go down the ship together.
That's
I'm
right.
leaving.
He's taking the coronavirus to he's taking it to the Carolinas, man. It's all good.
Virginia.
Oh, Virginia. Shoot, dude. Sorry. There you go. All right. So thanks again for listening to another episode of WSTR Galactic Public Access. You can check us out on the socials, WSTR Media, all one word, all lowercase. We want to hear from you. So comment, tweet us, rate us on Apple Podcasts. Give us that 5-star rating, and we'll throw mini books at you or whatever, retweet or email us.
We'll send you a little tiny book that has all of our merchandise in pictures on it.
Like a little tiny catalog.
Yeah.
But if you would retweet or email us screenshots of your 5-star rating, we will definitely not only read that on the next podcast, but we'll throw some swag at your way. Once again, you can email us at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. Leave us a voicemail, 630-557-WSTR. That's 630-557-9787. And yeah, let us know what your philosophies of the Force are, or what you would think you would like to see. What's the Wars of the Stars means and all that kind of stuff. Definitely drop us a line or leave your manifesto at mailbox@wstrmedia.com. While you're in self-quarantine, you can listen to all our back catalog of episodes at podcast.wstrmedia.com. We got the merch, store.wstrmedia.com. Even though you can't go outside, you can still wear it and do video chats, and you look perfect. So you can do that at store.wstrmedia.com. patreon.com/WSTRmedia. You can help support the show there. Yeah, I mean, you could get heady stuff like this on Starside Chat, or you can follow Heather in her journey through Star Wars at Heather Holocron right there. And that's at patreon.com/WSTR Media. Next week, episode 164. That's how it works. It's 163 now. It's going to be 164 next week. And we got Rob from Jedi Temple Archives podcast coming on the show. He survived Scarifcon 2019 with us, and we're finally going to have him on the show. So I'm sure we'll be talking something about Star Wars, maybe some Jedi Temple stuff. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So, and one more thing, guys. Don't forget, we have a contest out there. Road to 3,500. That's right. Hashtag, I'm doing a JD. Hashtag Road to 3,500. Yeah, hashtag Road to 3,500. We want to do that by May the 4th. That's Monday, May the 4th. It's going to be fantastic. And we're doing that on Twitter, so tell all your friends, and we're going to have some prizes. One of those we kind of teased. It could be a homemade Baby Yoda. It could be. Yeah.
JD, you shouldn't have.
Good, because I did
it. So yeah, we're gonna have a little prize pack that we're gonna give away once we get there. But we need your help to get to 3,500 followers. So that is hashtag Road to 3,500. So tell your friends, tell all your people, pass the TP and say, hey, did you hear about WSTR Media and spare square, and then tell them, hey, you got to follow this awesome podcast. So there you go.
Yep.
All right, gentlemen. Only one way to end this.
Now this is
podcasting.
Yay!
Stay home. Stay safe.
Stay frosty.